After 3 years of meticulously crafting myself into the perfect girlfriend, it took just 5 words. "This is my friend Emma," to make me realize I had lost touch with who I was, under the brilliant glow of gold and crystal chandeliers in the Grand Plaza Hotel ballroom. I nervously adjusted my navy blue cocktail dress for what felt like the 100th time. This dress, which had set me back 2 weeks' worth of savings, was a necessary investment for tonight. Ryan had made it clear that his law firm's annual gala was a crucial event where careers and partnerships were shaped and where first impressions could make or break futures. As I fidgeted, Ryan's hand briefly rested on the small of my back. "Stop fidgeting," he whispered. "You look fine, just fine, not beautiful, not stunning, just fine." I pushed the slight aside, attributing it to his nerves. He had been striving for a promotion to senior associate for months. And tonight was the night he would finally introduce me to the partners who dictated his career trajectory. "There's Williams now," Ryan remarked, adjusting his perfectly knotted tie, "the one with the silver hair. His opinion is crucial." I nodded, sipping my champagne to steady my nerves. I had heard endless stories about Patrick Williams, the managing partner whose favor was pivotal at the firm, as Ryan led me with confident strides across the room. I felt out of place amidst the powerful elite, with my public school education and non-profit job. However, over the years, I had learned to assimilate, picking up social cues and engaging in conversations that wouldn't embarrass Ryan. When we approached his boss, Ryan's voice deepened with a confidence I rarely heard at home. "Great event this year," he said. The older man, martini in hand, turned towards us, his wife an elegant figure beside him in cream-colored silk. "Ryan, good to see you outside the office for once," he replied, his gaze shifting to me with mild interest. This was the moment Ryan would introduce me as his girlfriend, the woman he had been with since law school. I extended my hand, smiling the way I had practiced. "And who's this, Mrs. Williams?" asked kindly. Ryan's hand tensed on my back, and after a hesitating moment that felt like an eternity, he introduced me. "This is Emma, just a friend who tagged along tonight." The world continued around me, but inside, I froze. Just a friend, after 3 years together, after moving in last spring, after planning a future together. Just a friend. I maintained my composure as Mrs. Williams made polite conversation, while Ryan engaged in a discussion about a recent case victory. Needing a moment, I excused myself. "I need to visit the ladies' room." Unnoticed, I retreated to the marble sanctuary of the restroom, confronting my reflection. I hardly recognized the woman staring back at me. My hair, styled to Ryan's preference, my conservative dress, his choice, the lipstick, the exact shade he deemed appropriate. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend MIA. "How's the fancy lawyer party? Wowing them with your brilliance." I stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. How could I explain that the man I had built my life around had just erased our relationship with 5 casual words? I splashed cold water on my wrists. A trick my mother taught me to calm down, and returned to the ballroom, now painfully aware of the dynamics I had been blind to. Ryan maintained a careful distance, selectively introduced me, and his gaze lingered differently on Bethany Chin, the daughter of a major client. When Ryan stepped away to speak with another partner, I retreated to a quiet corner to observe. The Ryan I knew at home, who was messy, couldn't cook, and snored when tired, was absent. He was in his element here, charming, confident, and utterly disconnected from me. "You're Ryan's friend, right?" A woman around my age approached with 2 glasses of wine, handing me one. "I'm Serena, Patrick's assistant." "Emma," I replied, accepting the wine gratefully. "First time at one of these. That obvious, huh?" She smiled knowingly. "You have that deer in headlights look. Don't worry, your secret's safe." Ryan's made it clear to everyone he's completely single, especially to Bethany Chin over there. Her father's company is worth millions to the firm. My glass nearly slipped from my hand. "Single, he's told everyone he's single. For months now," Serena added, noting my shocked expression. "Oh, God, you didn't know," as the pieces fell into place. The late nights, the weekend work emergencies, the reluctance to post photos of us. Excusing myself, I stepped out, Realizing the depth of the facade, I needed to rethink everything about the life I thought we were building together, I whispered. Setting down my untouched wine, and found Ryan by the bar, laughing with a partner and Bethany Chin, who stood closer to him than any client's daughter should. "Can we talk?" I asked, touching his elbow lightly. Annoyance briefly crossed his face before he excused himself. He led me to a secluded alcove near the coat check, his smile fading as soon as we were alone. "What's wrong? You're interrupting an important conversation. You introduced me as just a friend," I said quietly. "Don't make a scene, Emma. This isn't the place." "How long have you been telling everyone you're single?" I asked, my voice steady despite the hurt. Ryan's expression hardened. "Who have you been talking to? Does it matter? Is it true?" He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "You don't understand how this works. Perception matters here. Williams thinks married attorneys are stable, but unmarried senior associates are seen as more dedicated to the firm, and Chin. He prefers someone his daughter might be interested in." I finished for him. "You're overreacting. It's just business. 3 years together. Ryan, I turned down the Seattle job for you, moved into your apartment, I've built my life around yours, and you're calling me just a friend to impress your boss. This is my career, Emma, everything I've worked for," he said, his voice lowering. "Can we discuss this at home? You're being dramatic." The word dramatic hit me like a slap. How many times had he dismissed my feelings as trivial? How many times had I apologized for feeling perfectly valid emotions? I reached for my phone with trembling fingers and ordered a rideshare. "What are you doing?" Ryan asked, glancing nervously back toward the ballroom. "I'm leaving," I said firmly. "Don't be ridiculous. We came together. We'll leave together in a few hours." "No, Ryan, I'm leaving now, and not just this party." His tone changed to that cajoling voice he used when he wanted to quell an argument. "Baby, you know how much you mean to me. It's just one night." "It's not, though, is it? It's been months of lies." I stepped back as my phone buzzed with the driver's arrival. "Tell the partners whatever story you want about where I went. You're good at making things up." Ryan grabbed my wrist. "You can't just leave. You're my friend." I pulled away. "Friends don't lie to each other, Ryan. They don't hide each other away like secrets, and they certainly don't expect each other to beg for basic respect." I walked out of the Grand Plaza Hotel with my head held high, even as tears threatened. The cool night air hit my face as the doorman called my rideshare forward. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't look back to see if Ryan was following. The ride home felt surreal. Streets I'd traveled hundreds of times suddenly looked foreign through the blur of unexpected tears. My phone buzzed repeatedly, Ryan shifting from dismissive to desperate once he realized I was serious. I silenced it and stared out the window, thankful that my driver sensed my mood and didn't attempt conversation. "Rough night?" he finally asked as we approached what used to be my apartment, now just Ryan's. "You could say that." I managed a wobbly smile. "Sometimes rough nights lead to better mornings," he offered, meeting my eyes in the rearview mirror. "My grandmother used to say that," I replied, wiping away a stray tear. "She was the wisest woman I ever knew. She also said never to trust a man who won't claim you in public." He gave me a kind nod as I exited. "Hope tomorrow's better for you, miss." His words followed me into the elevator. Never trust a man who won't claim you in public. Simple wisdom that I'd somehow missed while earning my degree and building my career. The elevator doors opened to the 12th floor, the floor of the apartment I'd shared with Ryan. I unlocked the door and stood in the dimly lit living room, seeing it as a stranger might. The sleek, impersonal decor that resembled a hotel suite more than a home, the framed law school diplomas, but none of my photography, the complete absence of personal photos, a deliberate choice by Ryan in case colleagues visited. My hand hovered over the light switch before dropping away. I didn't need light to pack the essentials. Navigating to the bedroom by memory, I pulled my largest suitcase from the closet and began filling it with methodical precision. Clothes, toiletries, important documents. My fingers brushed against the small velvet box in my nightstand, the vintage earrings my grandmother had left me, the only piece of jewelry Ryan hadn't suggested I upgrade. The buzzing of my phone became insistent. 27 missed calls and counting. I finally answered on the 28th. "Emma, thank God. Where are you?" I've been worried sick. Ryan's voice blended concern with irritation. I'm packing, I replied, my voice firm. Packing? Don't be absurd. We need to talk about this like adults. We are adults, Ryan. Adults who apparently want very different things. You're blowing this completely out of proportion. He tried to soothe me with the persuasive tone he used in court. Come on, Emma. You know how these work events are. Image is everything. And what's my image in this relationship? The secret girlfriend. The woman who's good enough to cook your meals and share your bed, but not good enough to acknowledge publicly. That's not fair. No, it isn't fair. None of this is fair. My voice cracked. The finality of my decision settling in. As I zipped up my overflowing suitcase, I realized it was time to leave. Go where? This is your home. Ryan's voice came through the phone. No, Ryan, this is your home, one you allowed me to stay in, I replied, the clarity of the situation cutting deep yet offering a liberating sense of freedom. There's a difference, I concluded, ending the call just as the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my best friend MIA, her arms crossed, her expression fierce. I called her, I said, opening the door in anticipation of Ryan's next question. MIA burst in like a storm, taking in my tear-stained face and the packed suitcase. That absolute jerk. I knew something was wrong when you stopped answering my texts. How did you get here so fast? I asked, amazed. I was already on my way, she replied, attributing it to best friend intuition. She grabbed my suitcase. You can tell me everything once we're at my place, I can't just impose, I protested. Shut up and grab your laptop. Of course. You're staying with me, she insisted, gesturing dismissively at the surroundings, unless you want to stay in Ryanland. Waiting for His Majesty to return and explain why he pretended to be single. We were leaving the building, Ryan's frantic texts bombarding my phone, which I promptly turned off. Mia's cozy one-bedroom apartment on the east side was everything Ryan's wasn't. Cluttered, colorful, brimming with personality. The sofa bed was already made up with my favorite throw blanket she had borrowed months ago. Emergency heartbreak kit, she declared, producing wine, chocolate ice cream, and fuzzy socks. As I recounted my story between sips of cheap Merlot, how Ryan had introduced me, Serena's revelations, the dots connecting his recent behavior, I admitted, I should have seen it coming. I recalled how he insisted I remove our Christmas photo from Instagram because it wasn't professional enough. For his image, MIA made air quotes with undisguised contempt. He's been erasing you from his public life for months. You just didn't want to see it, because you loved him, MIA said simply. Topping off my glass, love makes us stupid sometimes. Not just love, fear, I added, staring into my wine. I had built so much of my life around him. Turned down job offers, let my lease expire. Now, I don't even know who I am without him. Voicing that hurt, we'll figure it out together. MIA squeezed my hand, offering reassurance. The rest of the night blurred into wine-soaked conversations and sporadic tears. By morning, my phone had died from Ryan's incessant calls. I charged it just enough to text my boss I needed a personal day, then turned it off again. MIA, he'll probably come here looking for you, she said over coffee the next morning. Let him. This isn't his territory. Sure enough, the knock came just after 9 a.m. Ryan stood there, his usual polished appearance replaced by a disheveled look, demanding, "You need to come home." Standing firmly behind Mia's half-closed door, I responded, "I am home. Don't be childish, Emma, we can work this out." He insisted, skipping any form of apology. "There's nothing to work out. You made your choice," I countered, his lack of respect for me and our relationship clear. 3 years together, and you're throwing it away over one comment. He escalated, his voice loud enough to draw a neighbor's attention. "Not one comment, Ryan. A pattern. A choice you've been making for months," I said, my voice steady despite my pounding heart. "Please leave before this gets embarrassing for both of us." When he finally left, MIA whistled. "Dang, girl, that was impressive." "I don't feel impressive, I feel like throwing up," I confessed. "That's the cheap wine, not your dignity," she joked. The following days were a blur of practicalities. enlisting friends to help retrieve more of my belongings, opening a new bank account separate from the joint one Ryan had insisted on for convenience, and fielding concerned calls from mutual friends who'd heard Ryan's version of events, that I was having an emotional breakdown and needed space. He's telling everyone you're mentally unstable. My coworker Jen whispered when I returned to work, said the pressure of your job was getting to you. Of course he is, I responded, feeling a calm resignation rather than anger. It was easier for him than admitting he'd been lying to everyone. The calm shattered when a cream-colored envelope arrived at Mia's apartment a week later, addressed to me in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a formal invitation to a law firm dinner and a handwritten note that turned my world upside down again. Dear Emma, I'm sorry to contact you this way, but I thought you should know what Ryan's been hiding. My name is Alexis Warren. I'm Ryan's fiancée of 2 years. We should talk. Please call me. My hands trembled as I dialed the number. I found out about you yesterday, Alexis explained, her voice surprisingly composed, when Ryan's mother mentioned his roommate Emma, who had suddenly moved out the same weekend he told her he was at a conference in Chicago. 2 years, 2 lives, 2 women, one elaborate lie that had finally collapsed under its own weight when I started laughing through my tears. Mia looked at me, concerned. I'm okay, I assured her, wiping my eyes, just realizing how much time I wasted worrying if I was good enough for him when he was never good enough for either of us. Returning to work after your 3-year relationship implodes feels like wearing someone else's shoes. Technically functional, but uncomfortably alien in ways only you can feel. My non-profits office was mercifully separate from Ryan's law firm. But our industries overlapped enough that I braced myself for whispers each morning. Emma, is the grant proposal ready? Charlotte, my supervisor, peeked into my compact office exactly 1 month after the incident I now referred to as the Gawar debacle, just finalizing the budget details. I responded, thankful to immerse myself in numbers rather than dwell on my personal upheaval. I'll send it over within the hour. Charlotte hesitated in the doorway. The board was quite taken with your presentation last week, especially given, she trailed off awkwardly, my ex-boyfriend spreading rumors that I had a mental breakdown. I completed her thought with a wry smile. It's okay, you can say it, she chuckled, clearly relieved. I wasn't sure if we should address the elephant in the room. The elephant and I are on good terms. I gestured to my desk, tidier than ever. If anything, I'm more dialed in than before. That's actually why I'm here. Charlotte stepped in, closing the door behind her, a rarity in itself. The Morgan Foundation project needs a new team leader. Their previous contact at City Hope is on maternity leave, and they've specifically requested someone with your expertise in grant writing. My heart leaped. The Morgan Foundation, our largest donor, funded community development across 3 states. Are you offering me the position? Pending your acceptance, Charlotte beamed. It comes with a promotion and a 15% salary increase. A month ago, I might have hesitated, concerned about how this new responsibility might impinge on my time for Ryan's needs. Now, I embrace the opportunity without a second thought. I accept. Thank you. Fantastic. Charlotte stood, then paused. One more thing, there's a Morgan Foundation mixer next Friday. The new project director will be there. We need to impress. As she left, my phone buzzed with a text from Mia. Celebratory dinner tonight. Found a Sichuan place that'll set your taste buds on fire. I grinned, remembering how Ryan despised spicy food, which had led us to a monotonous diet of bland chicken and steamed veggies. Absolutely, I texted back. The spicier, the better. The restaurant, nestled on a quaint side street with red lanterns swaying overhead, warned of its spice levels right on the menu. Mia and I ordered extravagantly, laughing over trivialities. So you're officially a boss lady now, Mia remarked, her chopsticks diving into a dish of mapo tofu. Hardly boss level, I demurred, though I felt the significance of the promotion, just a bigger project. Still, you're thriving. Mia pointed her chopsticks at me. While Ryan's probably sulking over his protein shake, Alexis told me he's been put on probation at the firm. A chance meeting with Alexis had blossomed into an unexpected alliance, bonded initially by shared betrayals. Professional consequences for personal actions, Who would have thought, I mused. Our fortune cookies arrived with the bill. Mine was unusually poignant. A new perspective will reveal unexpected opportunities. I tucked the slip of paper into my wallet, a memento of the evening, Mia's read. Beware of handsome liars, she joked, her tone dry. Actually, it's something about journeys and destinations, but my version's more practical. The following Monday brought complications. Ryan awaited me at the parking garage, looking sharp but strained. What are you doing here? I kept my distance. We need to talk, he insisted, his usual swagger gone. You've blocked my calls, changed your email, avoided our friends. You've left me no choice. There's nothing left to discuss. I retorted as he stepped closer, pleading his case of regrettable mistakes. Which one? I wondered aloud, listing his betrayals. He flinched at Alexis's mention. I can explain. I'm sure you can justify anything with the right audience. I glanced at my watch. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. I miss you, he blurted. The apartment's too quiet without you. For a fleeting moment, the familiar tug of our shared history made me pause, but recalling his dismissive introductions at work, I reaffirmed my stance. I'm late for my meeting, I stated, walking past him. Emma. His call echoed in the garage. I got suspended because of the Alexis situation. You owe me a conversation. I turned slowly. I owe you nothing. The elevator doors shut on his stunned expression. When I shared the encounter with Charlotte, she took immediate action, ensuring Ryan's addition to our no-entry list. Men, she sighed, recounting her own tales of persistent exes. They try harder before they finally give up. At the Morgan Foundation mixer, I donned a bold red dress, long relegated to the back of my closet by Ryan's conservative tastes, with renewed confidence. I mingled among donors and non-profit leaders in the Botanical Gardens glass pavilion, under a sky that opened up to the promise of new beginnings. When Charlotte introduced me to Daniel Morgan, the new project director, our surprised smiles acknowledged our past connection. Emma Williams. He greeted warmly. It's been what, 5 years? Daniel, I responded, shaking his hand, the past and future momentarily aligning in that handshake. I had no idea you were back in town. Charlotte glanced between us, her curiosity piqued. You two know each other, graduate school. Daniel and I answered in unison, then chuckled. We had been in the same master's program before his family's foundation sent him overseas to lead international philanthropy projects. We had been good friends, staying in touch through occasional professional emails, though the exchanges had faded over time. When did you get back? I asked as Charlotte tactfully drifted away. 3 weeks ago, the family called me home to take over after my uncle retired, he explained. His smile was warm, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Something I had forgotten about him until that moment. I actually requested your organization for the East Side Revitalization Project. I didn't realize you'd be directly involved. Recent promotion, I said with a small smile. The conversation flowed effortlessly, a stark contrast to the rigid, calculated networking events I had endured with Ryan, where I had constantly measured my words to avoid embarrassing him. With Daniel, I felt at ease, engaged. He asked thoughtful questions about my work and actually listened to the answers. When he offered to show me the rare orchid collection in the garden's climate-controlled greenhouse, I gladly accepted. The humid greenhouse was a welcome escape from the lively chatter of the mixer, as we admired a particularly striking purple bloom. Daniel spoke carefully. I heard about your breakup, I sighed. The non-profit world has an impressive gossip network. What exactly did you hear? I asked, arching a brow. He hesitated before offering an apologetic smile. That your ex is a first-class idiot who didn't appreciate what he had. Sorry, that was unprofessional. I laughed, but accurate. For what it's worth, he added, I always thought you were too good for him. Even back in grad school, you never mentioned that, I said, tilting my head. Not my place. He shrugged. Besides, you seemed happy. I traced a fingertip over a delicate petal. I thought I was. Turns out, I was just comfortable with compromising. As we made our way back to the main event, a flicker of movement near the entrance caught my eye. My stomach clenched. Ryan stood scanning the crowd with clear intent. Daniel immediately noticed my shift in demeanor. Everything okay? My ex just crashed the party, I murmured, my pulse quickening, and I think is looking for me. Without hesitation, Daniel subtly positioned himself between me and Ryan's line of sight. Interesting timing, he noted. Need an escort to the exit? I took a steadying breath. No, I'm not running from him anymore. Sure enough, within minutes, Ryan spotted me and started making his way over. His progress slightly delayed by waitstaff carrying trays of champagne. Emma, he called, ignoring Daniel completely. We need to talk, privately. This is a professional event. Ryan, I said evenly, and you weren't invited. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. His voice was loud enough that nearby conversations stilled. You're being childish. I think you should leave, Daniel interjected calmly. Ryan finally seemed to register his presence, turning to him with an irritated frown. And you are Daniel Morgan, Morgan Foundation. The slight emphasis on his last name had an immediate effect. Ryan's posture stiffened, his expression shifting from dismissive to alarmed. Mr. Morgan, Ryan's courtroom voice kicked in. I apologize for the interruption. I'm Ryan Harrington with, I know who you are. Daniel cut him off smoothly. And security is on their way. As if on cue, 2 garden security officers appeared at Ryan's elbows, without further protest. He allowed himself to be escorted out, clearly realizing that the risk to his professional reputation outweighed his personal grievances. That, I said, watching him disappear, was impressive. Daniel grinned. The family name occasionally has its uses. Mostly, people just expect me to pick up the check at dinner. Speaking of dinner, I found myself saying, I know a great Sichuan place. The East Side Revitalization project quickly consumed my days. Community meetings, budget negotiations, site visits. I thrived in ways I hadn't expected, uncovering strengths that had remained dormant during my years with Ryan. My evenings often ended with working dinners with Daniel, our professional relationship evolving into an easy, comfortable friendship. You have sauce on your chin, Daniel pointed out one evening during our 3rd visit to the Sichuan restaurant, which had become our unofficial project headquarters. I dabbed at my face with a napkin. Hazard of eating food with actual flavor. Speaking of hazards, he said, his expression shifting to something more serious. The invitation arrived today. I didn't need to ask which invitation. Connor and Alyssa's wedding had been looming on the horizon for months. We had all been friends in college. Alyssa had been my roommate before she became part of Ryan's social circle. Ryan and I had attended their engagement party together, still a couple back then. Now, the actual wedding was just 3 weeks away. You don't have to go, Daniel offered gently. I know, I sighed, pushing noodles around my plate, but I RSVP'd yes months ago, and Alyssa and I were close before she was Ryan's friend. And Ryan will definitely be there, Daniel noted. With bells on, I confirmed, probably expecting me to either show up heartbroken or begging for reconciliation. Months ago, the thought would have shattered me. Now, it was just an unwelcome inconvenience in my otherwise improving life. Word had spread through our social circle about Ryan's double life with Alexis, softening some of the judgment I had initially faced after leaving. Still, social media comments hinted that many expected us to eventually reconcile. You know what really bothers me, I admitted, setting my chopsticks down. Even after everything, some part of me still cares what he thinks, like I need to prove I'm doing fine without him. That's normal, Daniel said, his voice calm and steady. You spent years measuring your worth through his eyes. That doesn't just vanish overnight. My phone lit up with a message from MIA, emergency wedding planning session tomorrow. Revenge dress shopping required. I let out a laugh and showed Daniel the text. Looks like my support team is mobilizing. Good, he said. You need people in your corner. He hesitated for a moment before adding, I could go with you if you want. As my +1, the offer caught me off guard. To the wedding, wouldn't that be a little awkward for the Morgan Foundation's director? I'm offering as your friend, not as your foundation contact, he clarified, his gaze steady. No pressure, just an option. The thought lingered as I left the restaurant. Having Daniel there would make facing Ryan easier, but it also felt like using him as a shield, and I needed to handle this on my own terms. The next evening, I found myself in Mia's apartment, surrounded by takeout containers and what she dramatically called our wedding survival plan. Option 1, she announced, pacing the living room, skip the ceremony, show up late to the reception looking fabulous, leave early. Option 2, she continued, bring a devastatingly handsome date, make Ryan jealous, and ignore him completely. I smirked. Are you volunteering your devastatingly handsome brother again? Because we tried that at the Christmas party, and he spent the whole night talking about cryptocurrency. MIA shuddered. God, no. I was thinking more along the lines of Daniel Morgan, who clearly has a thing for you. He does not have a thing for me, I said, exasperated. We work together. Aha, MIA said, her skepticism practically radiating off her. And he just happened to offer to be your wedding date because he's a nice person who knows the situation is awkward. I insisted. Right, she flopped onto the couch beside me. Emma, when are you going to admit that you're allowed to move on? That maybe there's someone who actually sees you for who you are? Before I could respond, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. Is this Emma Williams? A woman's voice asked when I answered. Yes. Who's calling? This is Judith Harrington, Ryan's mother. My stomach dropped. In 3 years, I'd met Ryan's parents exactly twice. Brief, formal visits where I'd felt more like a job candidate than a potential daughter-in-law. Mrs. Harrington, I managed. This is unexpected. I understand you've been avoiding my son, she said, skipping past any pleasantries. I'd like to meet and discuss the situation. MIA, who could hear the conversation, made frantic throat-cutting gestures. Silently mouthing hang up now. With all due respect, Mrs. Harrington, there's nothing to discuss. Ryan and I are no longer together. Every relationship has rough patches. Emma, running away doesn't solve problems. Finding out your boyfriend has another fiancé isn't a rough patch, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. It's a deal breaker. Silence, a long, heavy pause. Another fiancé, she finally asked, her voice sharp with confusion. What are you talking about? The realization hit me like ice water. He didn't tell her. He didn't mention Alexis Warren. I asked. The conversation that followed peeled back the layers of Ryan's deception. His mother had been told that I left him because I was too career-driven and afraid of commitment. She knew nothing about the gala incident, nothing about Alexis. By the time the call ended, Judith Harrington was apologizing to me. MIA sighed as I put my phone down. That's actually sad. His own mother doesn't know who he really is. No one does, I murmured. I lived with him for a year, and I didn't either. As the wedding crept closer, work demands intensified. The Morgan Foundation's board had scheduled their quarterly review the same week, leaving me juggling presentation prep with the looming anxiety of seeing Ryan again. You look like you haven't slept, Charlotte commented 3 days before the wedding. The board doesn't bite. You know, it's not just work. I admitted. My ex will be at a wedding this weekend. Charlotte nodded sagely. Ah, the return of the ex. Classic anxiety trigger. I shouldn't care what he thinks anymore. But you do, she finished simply. Because you're human. She leaned in slightly. Look, here's my advice. After 3 failed marriages, I've learned a thing or two. Go to that wedding looking spectacular. Be polite if he approaches you. And remember, the best revenge is living well. The morning of the board presentation arrived with unexpected complications. Our community partners' data had discrepancies, forcing me to spend my lunch break rerunning numbers. By the time the meeting began, I was running on caffeine and sheer determination. The East Side project has shown remarkable progress, I concluded 40 minutes later, highlighting our final impact projections. With continued support, we expect to exceed our initial targets by approximately 20%. The board's questions were thorough and pointed, especially regarding resource allocation. Daniel seamlessly supplemented my responses, our professional rhythm so natural that we anticipated each other's points. Impressive work, the board chairman finally said. The foundation is pleased to extend funding for Phase 2, beginning next quarter. The relief was instant and overwhelming. Months of effort had secured support for communities that needed it most. As we exited the conference room, Daniel lightly squeezed my shoulder. Congratulations, he said simply. You earned this. We earned it, I corrected. I couldn't have done it without your support. Something flickered across his expression. Something unguarded, quickly masked. About tomorrow, he began. The wedding, I nodded. You don't have to come. I know you offered weeks ago, and I still want to, he interrupted. Not as your shield, not as your fake date. Just as someone who enjoys your company and hates seeing you stressed. The honesty in his voice caught me off guard. For the first time since the gala, I felt something shift. Something that went beyond friendship, a possibility I wasn't ready to name. Okay, I said finally, pick me up at 2. The wedding day dawned clear and warm. I chose the deep emerald dress MIA and I had picked out a fitted silhouette with an off-shoulder neckline that flattered without trying too hard. Not a revenge dress, exactly, but certainly a statement. Daniel arrived precisely at 2:00, looking unexpectedly at ease in his tailored suit. Ready for this? He asked as we pulled away from the curb, heading toward the venue. As ready as I'll ever be, I replied, exhaling slowly. The ceremony was set in a beautifully restored farmhouse just outside the city. With the reception to follow in the adjacent barn, we slipped into seats near the back just as the music began. My eyes scanned the front and immediately found Ryan, third groomsman from the left. He hadn't noticed me yet, his focus trained on the procession. When the bride appeared, I felt a genuine smile form. Alyssa looked radiant, her happiness so palpable that even from a distance, it was impossible to miss. It wasn't until the recessional that Ryan's gaze finally met mine, the moment his eyes landed on me, and more importantly, on Daniel seated beside me. His confident stride hesitated for just a fraction of a second. Then, as if flipping a switch, he recovered, plastering on the same practiced, polished smile I now recognized as completely artificial. Round 1 complete, Daniel murmured as we stood for the exit procession. You holding up okay? I surprised myself with the truth of my answer. Actually, I really am. The barn had been transformed into an elegant wonderland, twinkling fairy lights casting a soft glow over lush floral arrangements and perfectly arranged tables. Our assigned seats were near the dance floor, thankfully, far from the wedding party, where Ryan was stationed. As we settled in, familiar faces greeted me, their expressions filled with curiosity, darting between me and my unexpected +1. Emma, you came. Alyssa broke away from the receiving line, pulling me into a tight hug. I wasn't sure you would, after everything, and miss your big day. Never, I assured her, hugging her back warmly. Congratulations, Mrs. Carter. The ceremony was beautiful. Her gaze flicked to Daniel with thinly veiled curiosity. And who's this? Daniel Morgan. He introduced himself smoothly, shaking her hand. Congratulations on your wedding, Morgan. As in the Morgan Foundation, her eyebrow arched as she shot me an impressed look. Well done, Emma. It's not like that, I started to explain, but she was already being pulled back into the receiving line by her mother. Let her think what she wants, Daniel said with an easy smile. At least it'll give everyone something to talk about besides you and Ryan. He was right. Within half an hour, speculation about my new boyfriend had effectively drowned out any lingering gossip about my breakup. Across the room, I caught Ryan watching us, his expression unreadable as he went through the motions of his groomsman duties. Dinner passed without incident, Daniel charming our table mates with anecdotes about his foundation's international projects. He deftly sidestepped any direct questions about our relationship, offering just enough ambiguity to keep things intriguing. As the evening wore on, I found myself relaxing, actually enjoying the celebration instead of bracing for an inevitable confrontation. That piece shattered the moment the DJ announced that the dance floor was open. Ryan appeared beside our table as if he'd been waiting for precisely this moment. Emma, he said, completely ignoring Daniel. Can we talk privately? I looked up at the man I had once centered my life around and felt an odd sense of detachment. The power he had held over me had faded, like an old photograph, still recognizable, but no longer vivid. I don't think we have anything to discuss, Ryan. 5 minutes. He pressed, the familiar authoritative edge creeping into his voice. You owe me that much after what you've done to my reputation. Beside me, Daniel tensed, but I placed a reassuring hand on his arm. It's fine. I'll handle this. I followed Ryan outside to a quiet corner near the barn, where string lights cast a golden glow against the darkening sky. He looked as polished as ever, his suit crisp, not a hair out of place despite the long day. Morgan Foundation, he began, skipping any pretense of small talk. Impressive rebound, always the strategic thinker. If you brought me out here just to insult me, I'm going back inside. No, he said quickly, his tone softening. That came out wrong. He ran a hand through his hair, momentarily disrupting its perfection. I miss you, Emma. The past few months have been hell. You mean facing the consequences of your actions has been hell? He exhaled sharply. I made mistakes, he admitted, his expression uncharacteristically sincere. Terrible mistakes that I regret every single day. But what we had, it was real, was it? I asked quietly. Or did I just have something real while you had something convenient? That's not fair. Neither was introducing me as just a friend after 3 years together, I said evenly. Neither was proposing to Alexis while you were still living with me. Neither was showing up at my workplace, or having your mother call me to intervene. Ryan took a step closer, the scent of his cologne stirring old memories. Once familiar, now just an echo of a life I no longer wanted. I've changed, Emma. I'm in therapy now, working on being more honest, more transparent. I'm glad to hear that, I said, surprised to find I actually meant it. That will serve you well in your next relationship. I don't want another relationship, he said, reaching for my hand. I want you back. We can start over, do things right this time. I've been miserable without you. There was a time when those words would have meant everything to me. Now, they felt rehearsed. Lines from a script designed to elicit a response. No, Ryan, I stepped back, gently but firmly. You haven't been miserable without me. You've been miserable without the comfort and support I provided. There's a difference. His jaw tightened. Is this because of Morgan? His voice hardened slightly. Is he pressuring you, professionally or otherwise, to stay away from me? I laughed, the sound genuine, light, effortless. This may shock you, Ryan, but not everything is about you. Not everything revolves around your perception. I tilted my head. Daniel and I work together. He's here as my friend. I've seen how he looks at you, Ryan muttered. Then you've seen something you never did. I value real respect. Ryan's jaw tightened. So that's it. 3 years thrown away over one mistake. It wasn't just one mistake, I said calmly. It was a pattern. One that only became clear when I stepped back far enough to see it. I softened my tone, not out of pity but out of finality. I hope therapy helps you understand why you felt the need to live separate lives. I truly wish you well, Ryan. The practiced charm drained from his face. You'll regret this, he said, his voice hard. When the excitement wears off with Morgan, when you realize what you've thrown away, you'll come crawling back, and I might not be waiting. There it was. The ultimatum, the veiled threat, the assumption that I would eventually beg for his forgiveness. The old me would have panicked at those words, second-guessed my choices, compromised to keep him. The woman I had become simply felt sorry for him. Goodbye, Ryan, I said quietly, turning back toward the reception. Emma, wait. His voice cracked with an edge of desperation I had never heard before. Please, I need you. I hesitated but didn't turn around. No, you don't, I said, my voice steady, and more importantly, I don't need you, not anymore. Inside, the celebration carried on as if nothing had happened. As I returned to our table, Daniel looked up, his concern evident. Everything okay? Actually, yes. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. Everything is exactly as it should be. The band started playing a slow song, and couples moved onto the dance floor. Daniel extended his hand. Dance with me, under the twinkling lights, surrounded by laughter and music. I stepped into his arms. There was an ease between us, a quiet understanding. No performance, no tension, just presence. He didn't take it well. Daniel murmured, "He'll survive," I said lightly. "We both will," over Daniel's shoulder. I noticed Ryan standing at the bar, his posture slumped in a way I had never seen before. Our eyes met across the room. I didn't look away. I didn't feel the need to prove anything. I simply gave a small nod before turning back to my dance partner. "Thank you for coming with me tonight," I said. "It made things easier." "Anytime." Daniel replied. Then, with a teasing smile, though next time, maybe we could try a regular date, one without the ex-boyfriend drama. There's a great jazz club downtown. I met his gaze, seeing warmth and patience reflected back at me. I'd like that, I admitted, but I need you to know, I'm still figuring things out, I'm not ready to rush into anything. I know, he said simply, I'm not asking for promises, Emma, just dinner, conversation, and the chance to see where this goes. Naturally, the song ended, but we remained on the dance floor as another began, across the room. I saw Ryan collect his coat and slip out the side door without saying goodbye to anyone. There was a time when that sight would have sent me running after him, desperate to smooth things over. Now, I just wished him healing, and kept dancing. A year later, I stood in my new apartment, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and mismatched furniture. The space was smaller than the one I had shared with Ryan, but it was entirely mine. The walls were filled with photos of family and friends, displayed without needing anyone's approval. The bookshelves, once deemed too cluttered, now proudly held volumes I had always wanted to showcase. The promotion I had earned at work had come with enough of a raise to afford this place on my own, a tangible symbol of independence I hadn't realized I needed until I had it. The Morgan Foundation project had expanded into 3 new neighborhoods, bringing resources to communities long overlooked. My phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. Still on for dinner? I made reservations at that new Thai place you wanted to try. In the 11 months since the wedding, our relationship had grown naturally, shifting from friendship to something deeper. Daniel had never pushed, never rushed, never made me feel like I needed to be anyone but myself. We still disagreed sometimes, over project strategies, movie choices, or whether cilantro was delicious or tasted like soap. But those disagreements never came with an unspoken threat that love might be revoked if I stood my ground. Just as I finished texting back my confirmation, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Amir standing there, holding a housewarming plant and a bottle of champagne. Official best friend inspection time, she announced, sweeping past me. She took a quick look around and nodded approvingly. Love what you've done with the place, very you. Very me, I agreed. That's the whole point. As MIA wandered through the apartment, offering decorating suggestions and her signature blunt commentary, my phone buzzed again. This time with a news alert featuring a familiar name. Ryan Harrington had just been named junior partner at a new firm across the country. The accompanying photo showed him, impeccably polished as ever, standing beside his new colleagues. His smile was composed, practiced. MIA caught my expression. You okay? I looked at the screen, then back at her. Yeah, I said, and I meant it, just a news update about Ryan, and any residual feelings, regrets, sudden urge to drunk text him. I laughed, locking my phone and setting it aside. None whatsoever. I hope he found whatever he was looking for. MIA tilted her head, suddenly serious. And have you, she asked, found what you're looking for? I glanced around my perfectly imperfect apartment, thought about the work I loved, the relationships I had built, ones grounded in mutual respect rather than dependence. I'm not looking anymore, I realized aloud. I'm finding, every day, I'm discovering parts of myself I didn't even know were missing. Later that evening, as Daniel and I walked home from dinner, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement, we passed the Grand Plaza Hotel. Through the windows, the chandeliers still sparkled, golden and elegant, untouched by time. I paused, remembering the woman I had been that night a year ago, desperately trying to fit into someone else's narrative, dimming myself for the sake of belonging. Penny for your thoughts? Daniel asked. I exhaled, a slow smile forming, just thinking about how sometimes the worst moments lead you exactly where you need to be. I said, if Ryan hadn't introduced me as just a friend that night, I might still be shrinking myself to fit his expectations. Daniel took my hand, his grip warm and reassuring. For what it's worth, I'm glad you stopped shrinking, he said. The full-sized version of Emma Williams is pretty extraordinary. As we continued walking, I realized the final piece of my healing had quietly fallen into place. I was no longer defining myself in relation to Ryan, neither in resistance to him nor in recovery from him. He had become a chapter in my story, but not the whole book. The woman who once believed love required constant compromise had grown into someone who understood that real connection never asks you to be less, and that realization, more than any promotion, any apartment, or any relationship, was the true beginning of everything. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.